Hello, everybody. As Peggy said, my name is Maria Vogel. I'm the Director of Mental Health Education at the Boys and Girls Club Wellness Center, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I'm really excited to talk about this topic tonight because self-esteem is such an important topic these days for kids. And how to raise children who feel self-confident, resilient, who like themselves is actually so challenging sometimes, right? Like, how do we balance correcting our children or, disciplining them, but also not leading with shame and making sure that they still are able to love themselves and trust themselves. So we're going to talk about how to do that a little bit tonight. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what confidence actually is and why is it important. So confidence is a feeling of self-assurance rising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. So it really includes a few different characteristics. One is a healthy sense of self. Another is resilience, the ability to handle tough situations. Self-regulation skills, the ability to stay calm even in a potentially stressful situation. And the ability to make mistakes without falling apart. Right? All of these things are what contribute to self-confidence and self-esteem. And I think another piece is just being able to like yourself, right? Actually being able to say, you know what, maybe I'm not perfect, but I like myself and I trust myself. So I want us to just watch this little video. It's only a couple of minutes long. 3 tips to boost your confidence, and then we're going to go into more detail about some of them and some others too.
When faced with a big challenge where potential failure seems to lurk at every corner, maybe you've heard this advice before. Be more confident. And most likely, this is what you think when you hear it. If only it were that simple. But what is confidence? Take the belief that you are valuable, worthwhile, and capable, also known as self-esteem. Add in the optimism that comes when you are certain of your abilities, and then empowered by these, act courageously to face a challenge head on. This is confidence. It turns thoughts into action. So where does confidence even come from? There are several factors that impact confidence. 1, what you're born with, such as your genes, which will impact things like the balance of neurochemicals in your brain. 2, how you're treated. This includes the social pressures of your environment. And 3, the part you have control over, the choices you make, the risks you take, and how you think about and respond to challenges and setbacks. It isn't possible to completely untangle these 3 factors, but the personal choices we make certainly play a major role in confidence development. So, by keeping in mind a few practical tips, we do actually have the power to cultivate our own confidence. Tip 1, a quick fix. There are a few tricks that can give you an immediate confidence boost in the short term. Picture your success when you're beginning a difficult task. Something as simple as listening to music with deep bass. It can promote feelings of power. You can even strike a powerful pose or give yourself a pep talk. Tip 2, believe in your ability to improve. If you're looking for a long-term change, consider the way you think about your abilities and talents. Do you think they are fixed at birth, or that they can be developed, like a muscle? These beliefs matter because they can influence how you act when you're faced with setbacks. If you have a fixed mindset, meaning that you think your talents are locked in place, you might give up, assuming you've discovered something you're not very good at. But if you have a growth mindset and think your abilities can improve, a challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. Neuroscience supports the growth mindset. The connections in your brain do get stronger and grow with study and practice. It also turns out, on average, people who have a growth mindset are more successful, getting better grades, and doing better in the face of challenges. Tip 3, practice failure. Face it, you're going to fail sometimes. Everyone does. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 different publishers before one picked up Harry Potter. The Wright brothers built on history's failed attempts at flight, including some of their own, before designing a successful airplane. Studies show that those who fail regularly and keep trying anyway are better equipped to respond to challenges and setbacks in a constructive way. They learn how to try different strategies, ask others for advice, and persevere. So, think of a challenge you want to take on. Realize it's not going to be easy. Accept that you'll make mistakes, and be kind to yourself when you do. Give yourself a pep talk, stand up, and go for it. The excitement you'll feel knowing that whatever the result, you'll have gained greater knowledge and understanding. This is confidence.
Just realized I was muted. All right. So um, we're going to go over some of those things that the video talked about and add some other things in too. But why does confidence matter? What do confident kids do differently? So self-confident children are more resilient and better able to handle life's challenges. They are less likely to give into peer pressure and know how to make good choices for themselves. They are more willing to try new things. They are less likely to give up when frustrated, and they have good self-regulation skills and can calm themselves down. So self-confidence is a really important life skill that we want to imbue in our children so that they can know themselves and know how to make good choices as they get older in life. And that starts actually very young. So what actually builds confidence, right? I like how the video says at the beginning, like people say, be more confident, but what does that actually mean, right? What does that actually look like in practice? Many of us actually don't even know, right? We're told just be confident, but the thing is, confidence does not come from other people telling us that we're enough or telling us just be confident. Confidence comes from feeling good enough inside. So how do we help kids feel good inside? So we're going to go through some examples of all of these things, but there are these 5 sort of key things I want you to keep in mind that help to build children's confidence and self-esteem. They are praising efforts, not outcomes. Allowing kids to fail and make their own mistakes within reason, of course. Setting healthy boundaries and expectations. Embracing imperfection and exploring progress over perfection. And teaching and modeling self-regulation skills. So that one is really important because we as the adults, if we want to see self-regulation skills in our children, if we want to see them behave better, learn how to calm themselves down, we have to show them how to do it. They are not born knowing how to do it. So this one, praising efforts. This one is really interesting because I think it comes so naturally to so many of us to praise the outcome. And we're going to go through some examples of what that looks like. But studies actually show that praising outcomes tends to lead kids who try to just recreate that same outcome instead of striving for continued progress. And kids whose outcomes were praised may even refuse to try something new for fear of what the outcome may be. So we want to praise effort no matter the outcome. So here's an example. I like to do these what would you do scenarios with parents. You are welcome to answer this in the chat if you feel up to it. Peggy and I will also discuss a little bit, but what would you do if your child comes in and shows you a math test that they took and they got an A? How would you respond? How would you praise effort instead of outcome, right? The outcome is the A, right? And I know it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, wow, you got an A, right? But remember, that's the outcome. So how would you praise the effort? If you have any ideas, feel free to put it in the chat. Or Peggy, what do you think? What would you do?
I'm just giving everyone else a chance, But what would I do? I mean, this happens quite often. Sometimes I get it right and sometimes I forget. But when I do remember, what's important is, wow, it made a difference. Like for you, like, how do you feel about it first? And how do you feel about like how much work you put into it? Or especially if I know, right, that they did and that we worked together on it, then it's like, wow, that's great. You see how putting some time into it really helps, and can help you feel good about your class and the work and the learning that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We can go to the next slide and we can discuss some options. Right. So it's really easy to do this, right? Wow, an A, you're so smart. Right. But you want to try this instead. Wow, you got an A. Do you feel proud of yourself? Getting good grades takes hard work. I'm so proud of your efforts. Right. And why? It's because when we praise effort, children are more likely to try again, try new things, even if they fail. But when we only praise outcome, children are more likely to try to recreate that same outcome and not try if they think that they might fail. So if we only tell children that they are smart, they will try to look smart instead of cultivating true understanding, right? Instead of valuing the work that learning often takes, right? I think it's the same thing too with like kids' art, right? People are often like, wow, you're so amazing, you're so talented, right? Kind of no matter what a kid is showing you. And of course, you should praise a child, but try making it just a little bit more nuanced. Like, what's your favorite part of this drawing? What inspired you? Right? Like asking these kinds of questions will allow a child to not just look to be talented, but actually look to be inspired. Right? So a slightly different situation. Your child comes in and shows you a math test that they took, but this time they got a C. You know that they can do better. What might you do? Any of your kids ever showed you a grade and you wanted to be like, ah, what happened?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like I tend to ask that question first as far as what do you think happened? Yeah, like where did, how did do you feel like you were putting in all the effort and this was the best that you could do, right? Or do you feel like there was still room for space for trying to work on it? And kind of just sitting with them. Like, I bet you're not feeling great right now and I know that that's hard, but I'm here for you. We're going to figure this out together, and kind of come up with a game plan that they feel good about.
Yeah, those are all great answers. The thing is, there's not really like a wrong answer here. It's more just like trying to build an environment in your home and a culture in your home where you're exploring together when things happen, when things go well and when things go wrong. We can go to the next slide so we can discuss, right? So it's really easy to do this and but this is a little shame based, right? Like, I know you're smarter than that. What happened? Right. So we want to try this instead. How do you feel about this grade? Do you feel like you tried your best and you understand the topic? Some topics are going to be harder for us than others. It's more important to me that you fully understand than you get a perfect score because learning is cumulative and you'll need to understand this topic for next year's math. But I have faith in your ability to do hard things. What do you think will support you in studying to go forward? And why? Exploring how your child feels together builds resilience and problem solving skills, both of which are going to help studying effort. And we want to use non judgmental language so that we help children not fall into a shame spiral. Kids often already feel bad enough, right, about not doing well on a test. We don't need to make them feel worse. We need to explore with them maybe like what happened that created this circumstance and this helping them understand that it's more important that you really understand the topic. So what do you need support in order to understand the topic? So this next one is allowing kids to make mistakes. So often we are nervous as adults to allow our children to fail, but failure is actually crucial to learning. We want to encourage a growth mindset. Mistakes and failures are opportunities to learn how to do better next time. So if you're feeling anxious because you're either watching your kid make a mistake or you've seen your kid make a mistake, I want you to ask yourself, how would I parent right now if I weren't afraid or anxious? Are the consequences of this mistake permanent or life threatening? Usually the answer is no, right? If the mistake is potentially permanent or life threatening, please step in, right? Like this is the within reason piece. And what will my child learn if I step back and allow this situation to unfold? So here's a nice what would you do, right? Your child has a vocabulary test on Monday. They have a birthday party to attend on Friday night, and they're asking to have a sleepover on Saturday. You know that they are going to be very tired on Sunday and have trouble studying. What would you do in this kind of situation? I know this is a tricky one, and I feel like people might clutch their pearls about this one a little bit, but if you're thinking about how to allow your children to make mistakes that are not life threatening, right, that don't have serious long term consequences, what might you do?
I can share a little bit about this. So this, especially, I feel like in middle school, I feel like this is the time to kind of let these things happen, right? Because it's not like
Mm-hmm.
anything that's going to be permanently on their record or anything. And they're trying to navigate friendships and their responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, yeah, I would kind of let it happen and not be like, don't, I'm going to tell you, I told you so later. No, just kind of like sitting, okay, you know how I feel about this, what I might think about it, but you want to try it your way. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think the truth is that middle school and elementary school are great opportunities for kids to make poor decisions with minimal consequences, right? So it's really easy to do this. Absolutely not. You're going to be exhausted. You're not going to get any work done on Sunday. You have that big test on Monday. No, right? What's going to happen if you do that? Your kid is going to probably cry and whine and push back, and it's going to be a big fight and it's going to be exhausting. So, believe it or not, I might actually let this child make their own mistake. I might say, there's a lot of social events this weekend. I'm a little worried that you're going to be really tired and unable to concentrate on Sunday. What do you think? Right. But I like what you added, Peggy, of like, hey, you know how I feel about this. Right. But if you want to try it your way, let's give it a try. Right. Let's give it a try and see how you do. The, maybe actually you'll be pleasantly surprised. Maybe they'll do great. You'll be like, hey, look at you. I'm so proud of you. Right. But also, like I said, elementary and middle school, great opportunity to make terrible decisions because the stakes are low, right? Harvard is not going to call and ask about your child's fifth grade vocabulary score. This is a great way for kids to learn natural consequences, which actually is going to build their resilience and their own problem solving skills. If they fail, just explore what happened and what they could do differently next time, right? It doesn't have to be an I told you so. It could just be like, oh, well, what happened on Sunday? But what made it hard to study? Maybe you were tired, right? Maybe you were just um, so overstimulated by the weekend that you couldn't make your mind focus on your vocab words. What do you think we can do differently next time? Right. And one poor vocab test is not going to flunk fifth grade, right? It's going to be okay. So, another one, your child has a piano recital coming up in 2 weeks. Every time that you suggest they practice, a meltdown ensues. They don't want to do it. What might you do in this situation?
This has never happened, of course.
Your kids are always
Just kidding.
practicing. They're just such little angels, just practicing for an hour a day. Yeah, right. No
No.
parent has ever had this happen, I'm sure.
Right? Yeah, no, I have a collection of instruments at one point and then they kind of just rotate through and then they're gone. Um, yeah, what would I do? Well, I tend to try to figure out what's going on, especially if they were really engaged. Like, what's going on? What happened that you're now like really upset and don't want to practice?
Uh-huh.
But then, and so maybe that quick 2-minute check in can sometimes help settle, and then they feel good again, and we'll try. Right? Not that I'm trying to fix the situation, but I would ask them like, what's going on, really, to
Hmm.
start the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great answer. I think there's a few things to consider here, right? One, does this child actually enjoy playing piano? Or are you forcing them to learn, right? Is it an instrument that they are actually interested in learning? Or are they learning the kind of music that they like? Maybe they don't want to play Mozart. Maybe they want to play more contemporary music. Is there another way to foster their interest in this specific instrument? Because actually, it's going to be so much easier if they are invested themselves. Right? If you're forcing something on them, it's going to be so hard to maintain. So, exploring possible natural consequences is also going to be more effective than just telling them what's going to happen or using shame. Right. And like I said, does this child actually want to learn piano? Maybe they'd rather learn guitar or another instrument, right? Or maybe they want to pick, like I said, the songs that they want to play. So it's easy to do this, right? If you don't practice, you're going to embarrass yourself or me, right? Sit down and practice right now or no screen time for the next 3 days. But the thing is, first of all, is that consequence actually manageable to hold? All right. Maybe not. And also, screen time is often for adults, not children. All right. Like you give your kids that 30 minutes to an hour of screen time so that you can have a break to go do what you want to do or what you need to do. Right. Are you going to be actually be able to hold that boundary? Um, maybe, maybe not. Right. Or is it going to be a meltdown every time you have to hold that boundary and it's just exhausting? So try this instead. Look, I know you don't like practicing. It can feel boring, and there's other stuff that you want to do. I'm concerned that if you don't practice, you won't feel prepared for your recital in 2 weeks. How do you think you will feel if you're not prepared? What do you think might happen? So, why do we want to do it like this? Like I said, taking away screen time, it's actually not a natural consequence in this situation. It's unrelated punishment. And it's going to be hard to hold that punishment. So we want to teach children how to handle their frustration and think about the consequences of their actions, not just punish them for perceived disobedience. Exploring natural consequences like feeling embarrassed or not being prepared is actually more likely to get the child invested in practicing. So these are just things to think about, right? Like, also, you don't have to say exactly what I'm saying here, but just in the spirit of, right? Like checking in, like, what's happening? You used to like piano. What changed? Right? Kind of like Peggy said, doing that 2-minute check in of like, we just need to get out some frustration and then we try again. We need to explore changing the kind of music we're learning, changing the instrument we're learning. How do you think you will feel if you're not prepared? What do you think might happen? And then, yeah, if they're not prepared and they do embarrass themselves, that is a natural consequence, right? And again, if that happens, not leading with "I told you so," "I told you you needed to practice," but more like, well, you know, it's okay. We all make mistakes. We've all been unprepared for things. I've been unprepared for things in my life too, for presentations, for papers, whatever, right? Like sometimes we're unprepared for whatever reason, and we pick ourselves up tomorrow and we try again. So another one is setting healthy boundaries and expectations. And this one can be really hard for people because oftentimes people think that boundaries have to be this like fiery, fierce, strong thing. But actually, boundaries can be gentle. And we're going to explore how to do that to set boundaries and expectations again without shame, right? Because shame erodes self esteem and self confidence. And healthy boundaries and expectations can actually build self esteem and self confidence. So, boundaries and expectations teach kids that their role in the family is important, and that breeds self esteem. Boundaries and expectations create predictability, which gives kids confidence in knowing what to expect. Healthy boundaries show kids what is and isn't acceptable behavior, which will allow them to discern between healthy and unhealthy relationships as they get older. Healthy boundaries teach children about respect, both respecting themselves and being respectful to others. So, again, we're going to talk about how to set boundaries without shame, without being so fierce that we are actually eroding our child's self esteem, which is not what we want. So, what would you do in this situation? I know this is a tough one, right? Chores. Nobody likes chores. Honestly, I don't like chores. Like, I want to throw a fit when I have to do chores to this day. But let's say you've assigned your child the chore of taking out the trash every other night. They whine and complain every time. What might you do? How would you handle this? I'm sure your kids just do their chores like perfect little angels, right? With no complaining every time. Peggy.
No.
Teenagers are
Yeah.
known for their good attitudes. Yeah.
Right. I think being firm and kind goes a long way when it comes to these things because it's just a matter of consistency and patience with them. So, making sure to remind them that they made a commitment to do this chore and that I really do need them to do it would be basically how I would, go through that process of really just holding them to what they took on as a responsibility.
Hmm. Yeah. I like that phrase, firm but kind, right? Sometimes the visual I give to people is, it can be easy to imagine your boundary as this, like you're breathing fire or something, right? Like a fire breathing dragon, like you're going to do this thing, right? But actually, what if your boundary was more just like a light that you exude, right? That's just like a glow around you of like, no, this is like my force field, right? That you won't cross, you can't cross. Um, and trying to see it as softer and yeah, firm but kind. You don't have to back down, but you also don't have to freak out on your kids to actually enforce a boundary. So let's talk about some examples, right? You want to avoid this, right? This is breathing fire. You have only one chore. It's not even that hard. I had to do way more around the house when I was your age. Stop being ungrateful. Just take out the trash, right? Oops. We've all been there, right? Like, I get it. It can be hard when your kids are complaining and it's like, oh my goodness, it's just like one simple thing. And the more that you're complaining, the longer it goes on. Right. But try this instead, right? Like attuning and acknowledging their feelings is often the first step actually to get cooperation. So just acknowledging, like, hey, you know what? Nobody likes taking out the trash, not even me. I get it. And part of being in a family is doing things to help out around the house and take care of each other. This is your job. I have faith in your ability to do it. Once it's over, we can have a movie night together as a family, right? So holding boundaries is healthy. You're teaching your children that you believe in their capability and that their role is important. And also, whining and complaining is normal. It's okay. Just validate the feeling and hold the boundary kindly, right? Like think about kids whining or complaining or venting, kind of like letting off steam. They're just letting off steam, right? Would you yell at a tea kettle for whistling? No, because it's letting off steam, right? So if your kid is grumbling as they take out the trash, so what? Let them grumble, right? Grumble away, grumbler. It's fine. Right. So sometimes people say, okay, but what do I do if my kid refuses? Like they really dig their heels in and they're like, no, I'm not doing this. You can't make me. Right. This is tough. I get it. Um, but here's the thing about boundaries. People often confuse boundaries and requests. So a request is please take out the trash, right? Even yelling it, take out the trash, right? That's a request. It might be an angry request, but it's a request. It's actually not a boundary. A boundary is what you will do if a boundary is crossed. It's about what you are going to do if the other person won't do what you have asked them to do, right? It actually requires the other person to do nothing, right? So, for example, if your child refuses to take out the trash, you can hold a firm yet kind boundary. Hey, I've asked you to take out the trash. It's an important role for our family. I won't be able to start movie night until this task is done. The sooner you do it, the sooner we get to start. And if they still refuse, then they don't get to be a part of movie night, right? And it's kind of that simple. But this is about, again, like, what will you do as a parent if they will not respect the boundary? Right? So the boundary is take out the trash when I've asked you. What I'm going to do if you don't do that is not start movie night, right? Not have movie night. And I think it's great, especially with older kids, but young ones too. Try to use humor whenever possible, right? So I might say to a kid that I had a good relationship with, you don't want to be mean, but if I knew the kid would laugh at something like this, I might say, all right, Oscar the Grouch, time to pull out your trash can, right? But you can also explore other chores to do if trash is too much, right? You might say, okay, how about you do the dishes tonight? Or how about you sweep up the kitchen? Or how about you clean the toilet, right? So funny little aside, but something to consider. Sometimes what I will do with kids in this kind of situation is I will offer them a worse task that I know they really don't want to do. Right? So it's like, please take out the trash. No. Okay. If you're not going to take out the trash, you can clean the cat litter. You can go out back and you can pick up the dog poop. Watch how fast that kid is going to take out the trash. Right? And I've had situations like that years ago. I used to nanny and I nannied a 10-year-old boy, very sweet boy, but very normal in that he did not like to do chores. Totally normal, right? So, and he also didn't like to do his homework. Again, both normal. So I remember we got home and his mom had talked to me about not letting him play video games or play basketball or do anything until he had gotten his homework and his chores done first, because he was dilly-dallying, wasting a lot of time doing other things to avoid homework and chores, right? And so I told him as we got in one day, I said, hey, buddy, so before we get to do these other fun things, we're going to have to take care of homework or chores, okay? He was like, frustrated. And I said, I know, it's okay, right? You get to pick. So giving kids a little bit of control. Do you want to do this first or that first, right? Do you want to take out the trash first? Do you want to do the dishes first or whatever? So I said, do you want to do homework first or chores first? He was like, homework. I said, okay. And so he goes into his room and he starts pretending he can't find his history book. He's like, I can't find my history book. Yes, I can't do my homework. And I kind of knew he was probably lying, right? I was like, he thinks he's being slick, but I doubt it, right? I bet he has his book somewhere. So I said, oh, okay. If you can't find your history book, then you can come unload the dishwasher, or you can go out in the back and pick up the dog poop. And he goes, let me look again. What a surprise. He found his history book within 2 seconds. And he said, found it, like, from his room. And I was like, what a coincidence. That's amazing. So then he did his homework, right? And then he unloaded the dishwasher for me. So, again, holding that boundary like firmly, like I didn't let him get away with it. I made sure he did his things that he had to do, but I also didn't scream at him. I didn't yell at him. I didn't punish him. It wasn't necessary, right? Like, I held the boundary and he didn't have to be punished. So teaching and modeling self-regulation. Here's the thing. Kids learn through witnessing behaviors modeled. That means they are watching you like a hawk, and they are little sponges and they are absorbing everything that they are seeing. So they watch your behavior, they learn from you how to handle a situation. So as the adult, we don't want to join a child's chaos. We want to bring them into our calm. So if you want your child to learn how to respond to each other, your children to learn how to respond to each other with patience and kindness, you have to show them what that looks like in real time. Younger children, especially, they need that co-regulation. Self-regulation skills are learned. They are not inborn. No child knows how to calm themselves down without help. But the thing about self-regulation is that it breeds self-confidence, because actually it feels terrible to feel like you are a victim to overwhelming feelings, and acting out usually causes terrible shame afterwards. Self-regulation means feeling capable of tolerating frustration and hard situations. And it feels so good to overcome hard situations with confidence that I can handle this. So the visual that I give to parents too, and to kids as well, is those um, like blow up things that are like this outside of like a car dealership. You know what I'm talking about? That like get blown by the wind, right? They're like made of plastic and they're just like blowing around by this like fan or whatever. You do not want to be that thing. Like you don't want to be that blow up thing outside of the car dealership getting blown around by the wind of your emotions. You want to be a sturdy, rooted tree. So let's say that your kids are in the backyard playing together, and suddenly the older one hits the younger one. What would you do? Again, I'm sure this has never happened to any parent, right? Kids don't hit each other.
Yeah, no, that never happens. Yeah. I have two kids who are 22 months apart. So this happened quite a bit between them. Maybe not so much with the little one, but um, I had to learn very quickly to really just assess what's going on. Hey, what happened? What's going on? Asking both of them and really trying to keep my calm. And that was something I had to learn early on. And I'm still practicing. Learning doesn't mean it's like one and done.
Yeah.
You definitely have to practice it. And so it's really just being able to like say that and kind of assess the situation. And even if you did see certain things happen, it allows for the opportunity for them to share what happened. So it can be really helpful to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You want to figure out what happened, what went wrong, right? But staying calm, so hard in this kind of moment. I totally get it. I've been there too. It's really hard not to lose your cool. Yeah. Okay. So I know how easy it is to do this. No hitting. Stop it. What's the matter with you? Right. Really easy to go there and to get so angry and to be so upset that your kids are hurting each other. It's actually really hard to watch one of your kids like hurt the other one, especially like older to younger, and it's also easy to say like, you're older, you know better, right? But again, try to remember that like actually like a 6-year old doesn't usually know how to calm themselves down well enough not to hit a 4-year old or another 6-year old or whatever, right? It almost like doesn't matter that they're 6 and the sibling is 4 or 3 or whatever, right? Like still the brain development is not there for a 6-year old to be able to self-regulate enough not to lash out when angry. That doesn't mean though that you don't give them boundaries and you don't intervene to teach them self-regulation skills, but the number one important thing in this moment is to stay as calm as possible, right? But still intervene. So you want to intervene calmly if possible. So I might say, ouch, I won't let you hit your sibling, right? I won't let you hit, right? I won't let you do this, right? I won't let you hurt, right? And then you want to separate the children immediately by stepping between them and model empathy for the hurt child. Ouchies, are you okay? That hurt, didn't it? Let's get you an ice pack, right? And do your best to stay calm. Again, I know it's so hard, but once you've checked on the hurt child, right, you might need to pick them up. But again, you want to get between them because just saying stop hitting, again, that's a request. That's actually not a boundary, right? A boundary is getting in between them. I won't let you hit, right? Separating them. That's what you're going to do when a boundary is crossed, right? Don't make a request, set a boundary. So now I would turn towards the other child once the hurt one is separated and taken care of. Like, whoa, hey, you must have been really mad, huh? It's okay to be mad. It's not okay to hit people when we're mad, right? And we can explore what to do next time because the truth is, actually, oftentimes kids don't know what to do in that moment. They're just so mad. They're overwhelmed by their emotion. All they can think to do is just get away from me, right? Like, whack. So explore with the child once they're a little bit calmer. What can we do when we're mad? And we want to offer them suggestions. Like we can ask an adult for help, right? We can come get some help. We can walk away. We can turn around and take a deep breath and give some examples of what to say instead of hitting, right? You can say, I want some space, or I'm taking a break now, or I don't like that. Please give me space. right? These are all things you can do instead, but you want to explore with a child, what can we do next time instead of hitting? Because hitting's not okay. You can't hit people, right? And this is also why it's important that we don't hit our children, actually, because if we hit them and use corporal punishment, we're actually teaching them you can hit people when they're bad, right? You can hit people when they do something we don't like. And children, again, they learn through witnessing modeled behaviors. So if you're hitting your child, either out of frustration or to try to teach them a lesson, they're learning that's what we do. That's what we do when we don't like something, when we want to teach someone a lesson, right? So we want to be careful not to do that kind of thing and instead give kids healthy suggestions, right? And teach them self-regulation skills, right? What do we do when we're mad? We take deep breaths, we walk away, we ask for help. So some other self-regulation skills, right? I teach kids breathing. Breathing is a great way to learn how to calm ourselves down, right? So you can tell a kid, go ask for some space, go ask an adult for help, and then you can do a breathing exercise together, right? If you Google image search the phrase breathe with this GIF, you are going to find 100,000 of these little moving images. You can choose a cute one, right? These are some of the cute little ones that I have, right? Like the little puffer fish, and you breathe in and out together with it, right? Or the candles, or you inhale and exhale, or the heart, right? But the idea here is breathing actually really helps our body calm down. And from that calmer place, we are so much better able to make a good choice, right? Self regulation is about not being so overwhelmed that we can't make a good choice in that moment, right? And that's what's happening to kids is they're just so overwhelmed by the feeling that they don't know how to make a better choice. So we need to teach them how to calm themselves down so that they can. So sometimes too, if a kid is too upset, they won't want to breathe with you, right? Like that happens all the time too to me as well. I'll be like, whoa, we're so mad. We need to calm our body down. Let's go breathe together. And I hear, no, not breathing. I hate you, right? Or whatever. Um, and that's fine, right? Like again, it's like the kettle letting off steam, right? Okay, we don't like me right now. We're mad at me. We hate me right now. I always add right now when a kid says something like that. Like if they say I hate you, I'll say you hate me right now. Because the truth is they actually don't hate you, not forever. They just hate you in that moment, right? They're just so overwhelmed and angry in that moment that they're lashing out, right? So I'll say, all right, you don't like me right now. You're mad at me in this moment. But again, you can use humor, right? Like sometimes I'll say, okay, we won't breathe with the heart. We won't breathe with the fish. Will we breathe with a fart? Right. And then I'll just make a really silly farting noise, right? Where I like breathe in really, really deep and then I breathe out making a farting noise, like, right. Which is silly. And most kids will join along with that, right? Like most kids can't resist giggling at that kind of thing, right? And if you can use humor and be playful in this moment, actually, if kids are having fun and playing with you, they're learning. They're actually like 3 times more likely to learn if they're having fun. So sometimes as adults, again, we come at it with this like punitive, like, no, you're going to do this, you're going to breathe. But that's not working, right? That's not going to make somebody calm down, right? How would you feel if somebody was like, breathe, breathe right now, right? I wouldn't like it. So trying to be playful while still holding the boundary, while modeling that self regulation, right? Not joining their anger or their chaos, being silly. I remember years ago, I worked at a preschool as a therapist, as a counselor. It was for kids who had been through foster care. So kids with a lot of trauma and a lot of acting out behaviors. And there was this boy who would act out, do something really naughty, like knock something off of literally knock over an entire bookshelf, throw books everywhere in the middle of class. And then he would crawl under like a desk or a table or something and refuse to come out, right? Because he felt ashamed and he was angry and he was hiding. And getting him to come out was so hard, right? And the more it was like, come out, come out, come out, the more he was going, no, no, right? Hiding. And so I learned that, I mean, he was 5, so the farts were hysterical at that age, right? And so I learned that if I did something like play a song and make farting sounds along to the song, he just could not contain the giggles and he would always come out within like 2 minutes. Right. And once he was out and he was ready to like go somewhere and then maybe, sit on like a timeout or something for a few minutes to calm down his body, And then we would come back and be like, we made this mess, time to clean it up, right? That's the healthy boundaries, right? Once he's calm, it always worked, right? But the thing that worked was not the punishment of like, if you don't come out right now, you're going to be in so much trouble, right? It was more like, can I be playful with him to make him feel safe enough to come out, calm his body down, and then hold the boundary. And I know this is like easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, if I could just quickly add too, what
Yeah,
I've done is also, okay, maybe you don't need one, but I do. I'm gonna take a few
that's
deep
great.
breaths, right? And you're welcome.
Yeah,
If you want, you can join me. If not, that's okay, kind of thing. So thank you, Maria.
absolutely. Yeah, of course. No, that's a great one too, right? All right, maybe you don't want to breathe, but mama needs to breathe. Mama needs a breath, right? Or whatever. And then you do it. So you're modeling it, right? You're modeling the calm down, or you're taking a break. You know what? I need a break. I'm going to go step away and calm my body down. I'll be right back. Right. Because actually that's modeling that self-regulation. Right. So another one, progress over perfection. And so we want to understand that practice makes progress, but not perfect. Nothing's perfect. So remind kids that everybody makes mistakes, even you. So again, this praising effort and improvement when you see it. Notice the little things that your kids do well and try to let go of the little things that they do wrong, right? Is it a 10 or is it a 2? Remember that they are still learning, and model patience and generosity, and help kids reframe negative self-talk and mistakes. Right? I love this little cartoon of chaos is how I learn. It's so true. So, okay, what would you do? Your child kicks the ball. They're in a soccer game, maybe. They kick the ball towards the goal and they miss, and their team loses the game. Afterwards, you hear them muttering to themselves that they're stupid. What might you say or do in this situation?
Well, I think just, of course, recognizing and acknowledging that it was hard, that they really wanted to make that, goal, and they didn't. And then, kind of walking them through like what made him say that to himself, and how is that going to help, or is that going to make things harder? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to hear your kids say something like that about themselves, right? Yeah. So I know that it's really easy to do this, right? Cheer up, it's just a game. Or to jump right into the reassurance, like, you're not stupid, don't say that, right? But try this instead, right? That acknowledgement of that was a really tough game, wasn't it? How are you feeling about it? Or, if you hear them saying that they're stupid, I might say, you feel like you're stupid? Ouch, that's a really painful feeling to have. Where do you think that's coming from? Right? So just telling a child to cheer up or that it's just a game is most likely going to feel so minimizing, right? If a child is beating themselves up, they need support. They need support in exploring that feeling, and they need a reminder that they are still good inside. So explore deeper meanings, like missing a goal is disappointing, but it doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you tried. We don't always succeed at everything that we try, but if we keep practicing, we can get better. And do you think it's better to try and fail or not try at all? Right? Do you think it would have been better to just not try to kick that ball at all? Or do you think it was better that you tried to kick it and you missed? Right? So another one, what would you do if your child is working on a homework assignment and they seem frustrated and finally they crumple up this piece of paper and they toss it away yelling, I can't do it, it's too hard.
I think in the interest of time, we might need to just walk through that one, Maria.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, we've
fine.
got about 5 minutes left.
Sure. So, again, avoid this, right? We don't say can't in this family, or yes, you can, right? I might say, oh man, this is a tough assignment. You feel like you can't do it yet. Let's take a break. What's the hardest part of this for you? Right? It can be so tempting to jump straight into that reassurance or the positive reframe, but you're actually going to be more effective if you honor your child's feelings first and then explore the hard parts together, right? And encourage that effort and acknowledge progress. Like, wow, look at how far you've come in the last hour. You felt like you couldn't do it, but now you're more than halfway done. I'm really proud of your perseverance. Or saying, you know what I love about you? Even if you get frustrated, you have the grit to keep going. That takes a lot of effort and determination. Way to go. Right. So, in conclusion, final slide, right? We want to honor children's feelings exactly where they're at. Attunement helps children name and identify feelings, which for themselves later, which actually encourages self trust and self esteem. We want to facilitate this exploration of helping kids problem solve their problems instead of jumping into fix or just reassure. We want to let them explore making mistakes and having natural consequences. Hold healthy boundaries and make expectations clear because this brings predictability. And it's hard when kids don't know where the line is and they're more likely to feel uncertain in themselves. And teach and model self regulation. You want your kid to stay calm with them, teach them how to calm down in the moment.